Greetings gamers, I'm Anto, and today we're going to be continuing to build the city of Azim for our players to start their homebrew campaign in, and we're going to be carrying on by making our NPCs and factions. So when I'm building a settlement or a location for D&D, I like to come up with the NPCs before I get concrete information on factions or any other deep information on the location, just so that I know who I'm working with. I always like to break my NPCs down based on their social class or what groups they belong to. I find this makes it much easier when I'm running the game if I need to access information on an NPC to just scroll to the relevant section. I usually start with nobility and then guards or soldiers, merchants, and then other citizens. And then if I'm in a city or a settlement that has some other notable factions, I add separate sections for those. This really does speed things up in game because I don't have to have a separate page for each NPC, and they have a clear order which makes it really quick to find information when I need it. So here you can see that I've already broken this down into the different sections for my NPCs. I've got a section for nobility, a section for the Tamim and the Dionamal, which are the police and detectives of Azim. I've got a section for merchants and traders, a section for slaves, a section for the dock workers, and a section for other citizens. Over the last couple of weeks, I've spent quite a bit of time here and there adding NPC names or NPC occupations to this list, so we'll go ahead now and fill these sections in. So as you can see here, I've already got a huge number of NPCs ready to put into my city. For the names, I used a variety of online name generators. For the humans, I tried to stick to Arabic, Middle Eastern and Mediterranean names, and then for the other races I used a variety of online race name generators. You can see here that for some of the NPCs, the only information I have for them is their occupation, and that's because Azim is a great trade city. So when I was working on the merchants, I knew that there needed to be a lot. The players needed to be able to go to almost any kind of store and find someone who provided that service. So I looked up a list of different occupations in medieval times, and then I went down and added all of those things, and then have been going through and adding names and traits and personality to them over time. And I found that to be a really useful way of building NPCs for a city. Start with occupations or just a list of roles for your NPCs, and then over time, as you get inspiration or as you get 2 minutes to look at an online generator, start filling in those names and start filling in those personalities. So with our core groups added, it's time to start adding some of the groups and factions that are going to give Azim the flavour of being its own unique city. The first thing that I'm going to add is a group of organised crime families. We know that one of the biggest crime elements in Azim is going to be people who are trading, who are operating shops without license, so we want a few organised crime families. So we'll go ahead and we'll add in some information. I think 2 opposing crime families is a good start. Having just one would be a little bit underwhelming, but having 2 families means that they can work together or they can come into conflict with each other, and it just makes things much more interesting. Next up, such a bustling trade city is going to have some kind of red light district where someone who is visiting the city can go take in a show, drink at some bars and hire some company. So we will go ahead and add that. And I've already gone through and decided on a few of the NPCs that are going to be there. There'll be some brothel workers, escorts, there'll be a theatre with some different actors, and there'll be a few clubs. The next element that I want to add is a Black Rose Assassin Cell. We talked about the Black Rose Assassins Guild a few weeks ago. You'll find a link up in the card or in the description to that video where we designed this Assassins Guild, and I'd like there to be a cell in Azim. With so many traders coming in, so many visitors to the city, it's a hub where people congregate, and that makes it a great place for assassins to have a cell. So you can see that I've already started adding some of the members of that cell. We've got the cell leader, some assassins, someone that goes out and gets contracts. We've got someone that owns the front for their safe location. We've got a fixer and a fence. And I think that's a good starting point for our Assassin's Guild here in Azim. And the final major group that I'd like to add to Azim before we start planning our sessions or really diving into the world during the game is I'd like to add some religious presences. You're very unlikely to get a city without some major religious presences, so I would like there to be a few organised religions within Azim itself. The ones that I have decided on are a church for the goddess of the sun, the Everlight, a church for the goddess of death, and a lawful good church. I think that will give us a nice mix. We'll get a neutral church, more neutral evil church, and a lawful good church. So we've got the Church of Althea, which is dedicated to the Everlight, the goddess of the sun, the Church of Koros, who is the goddess of death, and the Church of Aldeafe. Now, I did a video where I created Aldeafe and showed you how I go about creating custom deities. I'll link that in the card and in the description as well. This brings us to over 100 NPCs to use in the city of Azim, which is an amazing starting point and really takes very little effort. You can see that for some of the NPCs I've already started adding in background information based on their names or their occupations, or based on other pieces of inspiration I've had. You can see that for some of them I've started giving them absolute traits, things that they will always do and things that they will never do. This is a really great method for adding character to an NPC or a player character really quickly. If you know what your character will always do and will never do, it makes it much easier to approach any given situation. From here, obviously, I would go in to each NPC and flesh them out, but that doesn't need to be done before the game starts. Once you've got a core of NPCs with some detail that you know the players are likely to encounter in their first session, then the rest of them, you just really need a name and an occupation, and you can create their personality on the fly. But you've got their name written down, and you can go back to this list and fill in that information so that you have it for any future meetings that your players might have. You can already see with our city we've got several families involved. There are different factions that are going to come into conflict with each other and who will have opposing goals. So there's a lot of potential for drama baked into this list already, and we've done very little work on it so far. But now that we know who lives in Azim, I think we're about ready to start thinking about our first session, as well as who is going to be our first major villain. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I'd really love to hear your process for populating your settlements and your cities down in the comments below. If it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But until next time, happy gaming. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for new content every single Friday. And if you want to keep watching, well, there's another couple videos for you to watch just over there. Happy gaming.